We are live. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Loopwired. Resilient Radio Loopwired Edition. There we go. All right. Today is storytelling time. No, I don't know what we're going to call this. This is something new. I'm trying different things out here, so if you like it, put it in the comments. If you don't like it, then put it in the comments. I read all the comments. So anyway, this one's called The Girl at the Crossroads. The rain had been falling for almost an hour. Not the violent kind of rain, the quiet kind. The kind that makes the world feel smaller. The kind that turns headlights into blurry streaks across wet pavement. Megan sat alone in her car in the corner of the grocery store parking lot. The engine was off. The radio was silent. The windshield wipers had stopped moving 15 minutes ago. She wasn't here because she needed groceries. She wasn't waiting for anyone. She wasn't even sure why she had pulled into the parking lot. She just knew she couldn't keep driving. The pressure had become too much. The uncertainty had become too much. The noise inside her own mind had become too much. So she sat there, watching the rain, watching the people rush in and out of the store, watching strangers live ordinary lives. And for the first time in years, she admitted something she had been trying to outrun. She wasn't happy. Not really. She had become an expert at pretending everything was fine, pretending she had a plan, pretending she wasn't exhausted, pretending she wasn't scared, pretending tomorrow would somehow fix what today never could. But as the rain tapped softly against the roof of her car, the truth finally found its way through the cracks. She wasn't living. She was surviving. And there was a difference. Survival is waking up every day hoping nothing gets worse. Living is waking up every day believing something can be better. Somewhere here along the way, Megan had forgotten what that felt like. 3 years earlier, life looked different. Or at least she thought it did. Back then, she had dreams, plans, goals, a vision of a woman she had intended to become. But life rarely falls apart at once. It happens one compromise at a time, one excuse at a time, one bad decision at a time, one toxic relationship at a time, one postponed dream at a time, until one day you wake up and realize you've built a life you don't even recognize. And the worst part, nobody forced you to build it. The prison was constructed slowly, brick by brick, decision by decision, until later finally arrived. A clap of thunder shook the sky. Megan looked up. The rain was falling harder now. Store lights reflected across the black pavement like broken glass. People hurried to the cars. Everyone seemed to be moving. Everyone seemed to be going somewhere. Everyone seemed to have a purpose. Everyone except her. And that's when the question appeared. A simple question. A terrifying question. What if nothing changes? Not the next week. Not the next month. Not the next year. Ever. What if 5 years from now you still are making the same excuses? Still waiting for the perfect moment? Still hoping someone else saves you? Still sitting in the same emotional parking lot? The question hits harder than my argument she ever heard. Because deep down she already knew the answer. Nothing changes until someone decides to change it. And that someone was her. The funny thing about transformation is it rarely looks dramatic. Movies lie to us.
No. Because, like, even the regrets, the bad things or the stupid things, you learn not to do bad things or stupid things. All those things are beneficial in some way if you can get through them.
They show us fireworks, big speeches, life-changing moments. Reality is quieter. Reality happens in parking lots, in kitchens, in sleepless nights, in conversations you have with yourself when nobody is watching. The decision that changed Megan's life wasn't made on a stage. It wasn't made in front of an audience. It wasn't accompanied by applause. It happened sitting alone in a car while rain fell against the windshield. A decision so small nobody else would have noticed, but powerful enough to change everything. She decided to stop waiting, not waiting for permission, not waiting for confidence, not waiting for certainty, not waiting for approval, not waiting for someone else to believe in her. She decided to move, not perfectly, not fearlessly, just forward. Because she finally understood something. Courage isn't about absence of fear. Courage is movement despite of fear. The road wasn't easy. There were setbacks, mistakes, doubts, days she wanted to quit, days she wondered if she had made the wrong choice, days when the old life called her back. Because familiar misery is seductive. It whispers, it negotiates. It promises comfort, but Megan kept going, one day at a time, one choice at a time, one step at a time. And slowly something incredible happened. She began meeting a version of herself she had never known. A stronger version, a wiser version, a calmer version, a more authentic version. The person she had spent years searching for wasn't somewhere else. She had been inside her all along, waiting. Years later, people would ask her how she did it, how she rebuilt her life, how she found the courage, how she overcame fear. And Megan would smile, because they all assumed the story was about becoming someone new. It wasn't. The story was about finally becoming herself. Maybe you're listening right now from your own parking lot. Maybe not a real one. Maybe an emotional one. A place between who you've been and who you're capable of becoming. A place where fear and possibility are fighting for control. If that's you, remember this. Megan eventually learned something most people never do. The door was never locked. She wasn't trapped by circumstances. She wasn't trapped by other people. She wasn't trapped by her past. She was trapped by the belief that she needed permission to leave. The day she realized she didn't, her life began. And maybe that's the lesson for all of us. Sometimes the prison isn't the place you're standing. It's the story you've been telling yourself about why you can't leave. One day, you'll tell yourself a story. And when you do, this chapter won't be the ending. It will be the moment everything changed. The pain wasn't the destination. The fear wasn't the destination. The uncertainty wasn't the destination. They were simply the road that led you to the person that you were meant to become. Faith is believing before you see. Focus is seeing where you're going before anyone else does. Fortitude is continuing when every reason says quit. Framework is turning those choices into a life. The difference between the life you have and the life you want is usually the one decision repeated every day. So choose it wisely. Because your future is listening. This is Resilient Radio. And remember, you don't need to see the entire road. You only need enough light for those next steps. Keep moving forward.